For decades, a culture built on authenticity, struggle, and raw talent has been the lifeblood of hip-hop, a sacred torch passed from one generation to the next. The OGs who built this empire from the ground up, they operated with a code, a respect for the craft, a reverence for those who came before. But right now, the foundation of that entire empire is under attack, not from the outside, from within. A new generation has emerged, armed with digital streams and viral moments, but seemingly devoid of the history that gives their music meaning. They're clueless, they're disrespectful, and they're being manipulated by an industry that values gimmicks over genius. The legends who built this world from nothing, they've been watching, and they are no longer staying silent. Welcome to The Breakdown. Today, we're exposing the war for the soul of hip-hop. From the boardrooms that manipulate the airwaves to the young artists daring to disrespect icons, this is the story of how the OGs are stepping out of the shadows to defend everything they built. This isn't just about music, this is about a cultural takeover. It starts with a single ignorant comment. A 21-year-old face-tatted rapper named Lil Xan looks into a camera and drops a bomb that sends shockwaves through the entire industry. He calls Tupac Shakur boring. The reaction is immediate and volcanic. The King of the South, T.I., immediately fires back, but he's not alone. The backlash is so intense, it becomes a referendum on an entire generation. This wasn't just an opinion, it was a declaration of war on the very concept of legacy. It became crystal clear in that moment that a line had been crossed. The young artists thought they could operate without consequence. They were about to learn a brutal lesson. This was the first crack in the dam, the first sign that the OGs were done watching from the sidelines. But Lil Xan was just the symptom. The disease was much, much deeper. While the new school was busy disrespecting the past, the architects of the original sound were breaking down exactly how the culture was being stolen. Enter DMX, the Dark Man, the Yonkers legend. He didn't just rant, he exposed the machine. X broke down with terrifying clarity how the system is rigged. He revealed that DJs are told what to play and what not to play on the radio. Think about the power of that statement. This wasn't about taste. This was about a calculated commercial manipulation of the culture. The nonsense flooding the airwaves wasn't an accident. It was by design. X's message was a powerful, painful truth. There is a deliberate disconnect, and it's killing real hip-hop. He was clear. Authenticity and truth will always outlast gimmicks and fake personas. But the conspiracy ran even deeper. RZA, the Wu-Tang mastermind, sat down with Fat Joe, Jadakiss, and Havoc and dropped the perfect analogy. He compared the entire modern industry to the emperor's new clothes. He explained how the industry is selling fake hip-hop to the fans, and everyone, the labels, the media, the listeners, is too scared to call it out. They're all pretending to see clothes that aren't there. RZA made it crystal clear. The OGs need to step up. It's their responsibility to call out the whack that's being pushed as real. The guardians of the culture had to become its enforcers. The stage was set. The problem was diagnosed. Now the response was about to get physical. The new generation thought this was all talk. They were about to find out that the legends weren't just philosophers, they were warriors. When Lil Yachty casually admitted he didn't know who the notorious B.I.G. was, an underground veteran named R.A. the Rugged Man completely lost it. He went straight for the throat, but he wasn't just angry, he had the most brutal advice possible for the new rappers. He wasn't just telling them they were wrong, he was telling them they were soft. Then Redman stepped into the fray. Redman made it crystal clear. This wasn't a debate, it was a challenge. If any young cat wanted to test him in a cypher, they were going to get smoked. This was a direct threat to their artistic lives, and everyone knew he could back it up. But the most devastating blow came from the absolute foundation of the culture itself. Hip-hop pioneer Grandmaster Caz was asked about the new rappers. His response wasn't just angry, it was brutal, honest, and dismissive. It was the verdict of history itself. The enforcers had spoken, the message was sent, but one legend was about to lay out the entire philosophy of why this war was necessary. KRS-One, the teacher, stepped in. While others were throwing punches, he was building a school. During a discussion about generational relationships, he explained exactly how the culture should be passed down. It wasn't about blind obedience, it was about respect and knowledge. He exposed the cultural manipulation, explaining how the youth are being steered away from the truth. This was the master blueprint. This was the why behind all the what. The OGs weren't just defending their egos, they were defending a sacred lineage. But just when you thought the disrespect couldn't get more blatant, it descended into pure absurdity. One of the Island Boys, a duo known solely for their viral, cartoonish appearance, actually threatened to beat Snoop Dogg up. Let that sink in. The cultural disconnect was now a circus. It proved that the new generation had no sense of scale, no respect for hierarchy, and no understanding of the legends they were confronting. Snoop's response, he and Dr. Dre later took a subtle yet devastating shot by completely dismantling modern music production standards, proving that their craftsmanship was light years ahead of the amateur hour flooding the charts. The battle lines were drawn on every front, on records, in interviews, and in the very philosophy of the culture. The system, however, wasn't going down without a fight. The radio, the traditional gatekeeper, still had its champions, and one of them was about to force a reckoning. Funk Flex, the OG radio legend, was fed up. His legendary rants about the new generation's lack of bars were becoming a weekly event. He represented the last line of defense, the quality control that the algorithm had destroyed. But then, something unexpected happened. Lil Yachty, tired of being the poster child for the problem, decided to confront the gatekeeper head on. He showed up to Funk Flex's show live to prove he could spit bars. The tension was electric. This was a trial by combat. The young lion facing the old king on his own turf. But let's be real, his raps were rehearsed. The moment was staged. Yet, it was a stunning admission of guilt. It proved that even the new school recognized the power Funk Flex held. He still had the power to make or break artists, to force them to step their game up. But the schooling wasn't over for Yachty. He walked into an interview with Joe Budden and DJ Academics, completely unaware of the ambush that awaited him. Joe wasn't there to interview him, he was there to lecture him. He pressed Lil Boat on his understanding of the culture, on what he was willing to give back to it. Joe Budden didn't just question his music, he questioned his very right to claim a space in hip-hop. It was a brutal public hazing, a rite of passage that the new generation had tried to skip. As the war escalated, the final bosses of the industry began to close the gates, reminding everyone who built the throne. When Pusha T leaked a verse going after Drake, Young Thug foolishly decided to take shots at the veteran rapper. Pusha's response wasn't just a diss, it was a demolition. He belittled Thug's entire value on the track, stating, "At Young Thug, you were the last verse added to the song, and that's only because I requested you." Then, he delivered the kill shot. "I would never look or need your respect for what it is I bring to this rap game." This was a lesson in hierarchy. It was a reminder that the veterans operate on a different plane of existence. The legendary producer Pete Rock sat on the Breakfast Club and spelled out what was missing from today's hip-hop: respect. Respect for the pioneers, for the samples, for the craft he helped invent. And finally, Rakim, the God MC himself, delivered the closing argument. TMZ caught up with him, and he laid down the harsh truth about what millennials were doing to the culture he helped create. He explained the fundamental difference between hip-hop and rap. Hip-hop is the culture. Rap is just the soundtrack. He warned about the death of poetry in hip-hop, a direct shot at the simplistic, repetitive flows dominating the charts. These moments, from DMX to Rakim, capture an ongoing war, a battle for the heart and soul of hip-hop. The OGs have proven that real authenticity will always triumph over artificial trends. They've built an unbreakable wall against the flood of mediocrity. They've exposed the truth. The industry is selling an empty product, and the OGs are the guardians of the real thing. The nightmare for the new school isn't that the OGs are angry. It's that they are right. They've proven that you can't build a legacy on streams alone, that respect isn't given, it's earned, and that the foundation they built is stronger than any viral trend. The revolution won't be televised. It'll be produced by Pete Rock, spat by Pusha T, and philosophized by KRS-One. The real question is, which side of history will you be on? Do you rock with the old heads who built the empire, or are you down with the new school who's trying to burn it down for likes? The Guardians have spoken. The war is here. This has been The Breakdown. We've exposed the generational clash that is defining modern hip-hop. This isn't just about old versus new, it's about truth versus gimmicks, legacy versus oblivion. The OGs didn't just build a culture, they built a fortress. And they are defending it with everything they have. The revolution will be authentic.